Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Olson, Vice President of Public Affairs and a member of the Senior Management Team. Once again, thank you for coming today. The same individuals have been in here from a safety briefing, so I'm going to forego that. However, just to let you know that OPPD will be here for you if you need us. Today's event is being live streamed and recorded, and a link is to the event is available on oppd.com. Please note that if you have invited media to attend this conference in person, but many of you are watching through the website, so thank you with that. I'm going to pass it over to our CEO and President, Javier Fernandez. We also have Steve Fansall here from Customer Service, and I'll be available for questions as well. Javier.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon. As always, we hope you are safe and well, considering the situation we have at hand. Let me start by again, we are a safety-oriented organization, and safety is at the top of my mind and all of our employees' mind. I have been reporting no incidents as of yesterday for our employees and contract crews. We've had one incident to report. Unfortunately, today we have one incident. It's not a major incident, but it was as one of our line crews was working on site, a dog got loose and bit our employee. So we report that safety incident, and we're reporting these here. And so continue to report and focus on safety. I'm glad that we continue to do well there. I am also very glad to report that we exceeded the goal we put out for 11:59 p.m. last night with just under 14,000 outages. Let me repeat that. We exceeded our goal, restoring power to 1,000 more people than we had anticipated as of last night. I'm going to show you a table. Here is the similar table that we showed yesterday. As of 3 p.m. Today, we have restored power to over 177,000 customers from our peak of 188,000. And I am pleased to report that as of about 15 minutes ago, we just went under the 10,000 outage mark. Now, if you are still one of those 10,000 customers, this doesn't really do much for you. And we know that, and we have a lot of people out there working, trying to restore your power as soon as possible. But it is important for me to also report on the progress that we are making on the overall outage recovery. We have very good reason to believe that we will be approaching our goal of 96% restoration by 11:59 p.m. tonight. As you can see on the graph here, that would equate to leaving approximately 7,000 more outages to work on as of tomorrow. We're actively working at it, and we have a very good reason to believe that we should be able to meet that goal. Part of the reason why we can meet these goals is because we have continued to have lots of people on the ground and behind the scenes, and I'm going to talk that in just a minute here. I want to showcase some of the impressive work that was completed on some large transmission structures. Now, most of the pictures that we've been showing and the pictures that you've been seeing on social media, those are trees in backyards, in alleyways, in streets for our distribution system, the damage was devastating. What I'm going to show you here is damage that we sustained on our transmission infrastructure. Now, transmission infrastructure, those are the very tall structures, poles, sometimes metal structures that you see typically on the highway or you see on main thoroughfares here in the metro area. These one, you can see the work that we're doing here, blue sky or not, this is the type of damage that we're still seeing across the service area. This is down in Plattsmouth. In the Plattsmouth area, our transmission system sustained significant damage. There were 8 structures, as you can see here. These are really tall. They're 80-foot poles, and they were flat on the ground. 8 of them. And we were able to, with the help of our contractors and OPPD workforce, we were able to restore that line back up and energized within 48 hours after the event happened. That is an incredibly fast speed for us to restore that line. Bringing our transmission infrastructure up to a healthy condition is incredibly important for us to continue to rely on the system as a whole. Now, it's not the only thing. That's, as I mentioned, all this distribution infrastructure. That's one that you customer owners are probably seeing on your neighborhood. Those that we continue to work on. But I wanted to give you a flavor of these other very complicated, labor-intensive, capital-intensive project that we were able to complete in a very short amount of time. Now, let me switch topics a little bit. Now, if your power is still out and you have not received a call or an email from us, please first report your outage at oppd.com or via our mobile app at OPPD Connect. If your power is out, please report your outage as soon as possible. We're trying to make sure that we have all the latest information, and sometimes it may be redundant, but that's okay. Our systems are prepared to take that redundant information, but we would rather have you report it again if your power is still out. We also want to make sure, so this is the other side, if you have not received a phone call or an email, we want to make sure that we have the best information at which we can contact you. So sometimes we may have an old phone number or an old email address, or we may not have the information that you that we need to contact you. So please go to oppd.com. I'm going to put that address, that URL on the slide, oppd.com/keepcurrent, and submit your most current contact information, or you can also call 1-800-554-6773. I'm going to pause here for a minute, just make sure that everybody has that URL. Let me repeat the phone number. It's 1-800-554-6773, so that we can get your most current contact information. The remaining outages continue to show significant tree damage, meter socket damage, and the like, but we are making good progress, as I mentioned earlier. Yesterday, we showed you a graphic, and I'm going to show you here in a moment, that illustrates the parts of a service point that are OPPD's responsibility to repair versus a homeowner or property owner's responsibility to repair. We encourage you to visit oppdthewire.com for more resources on that topic, and you can see that at the top right-hand corner of the slide. It's the URL where we have not only this infographic, but we have instructions, we will have videos, and a lot more information for those customers who may need this type of information. This goes without saying, but I think it's important for us to remember why we're all here today. This was a historic storm with 96 miles per hour, hurricane force winds, and we're still seeing the aftermath, and we're restoring power as quickly as we can. We have never had so many customers out as a result of a storm. This is the largest storm that we've had measured by number of customers that have been out. I want to comment again on the support we have in the field, working all remaining outages, not just those with the most severe impact, but all remaining outages. Each day, we've added more resources. Now, let me talk a little bit about these. I've received some comments. I've read some comments asking, well, why are you waiting so long to bring more resources? Let me clarify. We called on those resources from day one. Some of those resources, some of those crews were busy attending other emergencies in other parts of the country, and they've had to finish that work and then travel sometimes 2 to 3 days to finally get to us. That's why we have been able to add more resources. And at the same time, we are also losing some resources. Some of these crews are now being called back to their utility because they are now preparing for other storms. A good example of these, there's a storm system coming into Minnesota, and some of those crews are now being called back. So as we are losing some crews, we're actively working and welcoming the new crews to provide relief. I'm very happy to report that right now there are more than 900 people in the field helping to restore power. That is more people than we had yesterday. So even though, again, we've lost some crews, we've added more than we've lost, and today we have more than 900 people restoring power. In addition to that, we have hundreds more coordinating these historic efforts behind the scenes. In our storm restoration team, in our meeting rooms, in our control rooms, in supply chain, in our transportation departments, in our warehouses. There's hundreds of OPPD employees supporting these 900 people who are out in the field restoring your power. I want to thank you once again for your support during such a difficult time. This is hard. It is really hard. I spend about an hour and a half every day down in the call center with our call center reps. I have seen how hard it is for them to talk to customers, and I'm sympathetic to what customers are going through, and it is hard for all of us. I'm very aware of that. Our board of directors is very aware of that. We will be having lots of conversations about our response to this storm and how can we do things better in the future. We are grateful for your patience and for the commitment of the women and men who have been working long hours, doing often dangerous work to restore your power. And with that, we can take some questions, and Jody Baker.
Hi, folks. Jody Baker, media specialist. I work with the news media, as my title would tell you. So we've got some folks here in person to ask questions. I know there are a lot of folks watching online as well, and we want to thank you for that. We're going to take questions from reporters beginning in the front row here and working our way around one at a time until we've answered what they would like to get answered. So starting with the World Herald first.
Thank you, Jody. The person that was injured, could you, whatever detail you could provide, even how small, gender, was it a man, was it a woman, did they have to go to the hospital, you know anything about the dog, was it jump a fence, was it in the house, any details you have that you have to do, flesh it out.
Okay, the question is about the injury that occurred with our worker who was bit by a dog. Just wanting to know what other details we might be able to share.
I don't have much detail here, and I want to respect the person's privacy first and foremost, and that's why I'm not revealing much about that. But what I can tell you is that I believe that no major medical attention was necessary. It was not to that extent that the person had to be taken to the hospital. But it is still something that we report, and we are transparent with that.
Javier, may I add to that? Our men and women go into backyards all the time. It's important that you go through and make sure that your pets are inside if you do have an outage, so that when the crews come in, that they are taken care of. Because we are pet friendly, but we also want to make sure that they stay away from the damage as well, so that our crews can come in and out as quickly as possible. So thank you, customers, if you are listening, to make sure that you heed that request. Thank you.
Okay, do we have more questions? KMTV.
I know yesterday you mentioned that there were some additional outages because of limbs that were falling with the wind. Did we have any of that last night or today?
And the question is regarding the outages that we did add since this event initially began because of the compromised tree limbs and trees that eventually broke off. Wondering if we have had any more of that since we reported yesterday.
I don't have an answer to that. I believe, we have continued to add outages. We had a storm earlier today. Some of those outages now are looking more like, I'm going to call it routine outages, not necessarily tied to the original storm, but I don't have an answer for you precisely to what number of outages could still be tied to the storm, meaning branches that were about to fall or infrastructure was about to fall. I don't have that information. I can get that for you.
A follow-up to that, we're expecting some windy, stormy weather tonight, maybe coming into the area a little bit more in Iowa. How are you guys prepping for that? Are you expecting there to be some more outages like we saw Monday and Tuesday because of the downed limbs?
Related question, with tonight's weather, impending weather that we're expecting, what are we doing to prepare?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our transmission operations team is constantly watching for the weather, and there are different levels of alerts. And you're right. There are some storms coming in later this afternoon. We are just following our normal procedure of making sure that we're staging and that we are getting ready for that. Now, the difference is we already have crews out. If this were the first storm on a normal blue sky day, we would be right now staging and helping get us ready. We are already there. And so it's a matter of tracking the storm and looking at the dispatching of crews. Very important is, and we don't expect that tonight, but where the winds were to pick up to be too strong, then there's a time where we take the crews back and we stop work when the wind gets too strong. We're not expecting that to be the case tonight, but we're actively watching.
Do we have any questions in the back? KPTM.
Yeah, hi, my name is Cheryl, KBC, and I was just wondering, are you guys going to be giving any compensation for people who've been without power for a few days or anything, just like any additional bill or anything?
The question is, do we compensate customers who have been without power for this long? How does that work?
So customers who have been without power for this long, of course, you have not been consuming energy, and of course that will be reflected in your bill. But as far as our ability to compensate for this type of storm, we're not planning on that. That's we're restricted by statute on what we can do and we cannot do. But rest assured, if you have been without power, you will obviously not be charged for that. We have, and let me remind folks that we have suspended disconnects. And that is, again, just to provide a little bit of peace of mind amongst all of the worrying that we know our customer owners have endured.
Do we have any more questions? Okay. KMTV.
Kind of related to her question, there are some people that still need to have some additional work done on their personal property and things like that. That might put them in kind of a financial bind. Are you guys pointing people towards programs to help them with like their bill whenever it does come back on?
The question is, with the hardships a lot of folks are facing, particularly if they have to pay for their own electrical repairs, are we helping to point people in the right direction to get the help they may need?
Yes, we are. We are, and we're blessed. We're very fortunate to have all these network of support. There are some customers who qualify for low-income home energy assistance. And in those instances, depending on which customer and which program, some of those dollars could be used for these type of repairs as well. And so we have those resources. We are making those available. We have a lot of those resources on our website, but we're also making our customer representatives available to direct them and to help them navigate sometimes the complexity of trying to get those dollars directed to them. But the short answer is yes, there are, and we're helping customers get there.
Okay. More questions?
Plattsmouth outage, just to drive the point home a little bit more. Do you happen to know how many customers had their power back once the poles were back up 48 hours later?
The question is,
Might have had their power back.
with the Plattsmouth outage referenced earlier, do we know how many people may have had their power restored since that point?
I don't have an official figure. It's not that many, because not that many are fed from the distribution lines that are underneath those transmission lines. Probably the relevance of that infrastructure is providing reliability and resilience to the grid. When you have an important transmission line down, it really doesn't take that many other storms to take other transmission line down for us to have major problems. So for us, the restoration of that line of that transmission infrastructure was important to restore the few customers that were connected to that line, but probably even more important for the system as a whole to bring reliability back to the system.
Okay. KMTV, you had your hand raised? Or KPTM, rather?
Yeah, I was just wondering, sorry to miss this in the beginning, but is there any other goal to have more people restored? We heard 99.7, I just wanted to see if that was like still realistic, or if people restoring their power.
Okay, the question was with regards to the goals that we'd set, the revised goals, and are they still realistic?
They are realistic. I talked about that at the beginning of the meeting, and it's the same table that we have, and I'll repeat this. It's we exceeded our goals from last night. We are very confident that we will meet our goals for tonight, and we may actually exceed them. But we're still cautious about that. But our projections continue the same as yesterday.
Okay.
I think it's important that we talk about
how the work has changed again and that we're into the one-offs and
Yes.
two?
So I'll repeat this once again. We have been working and prioritizing work based on how many outages are tied to one incident. And as we're going in and we're doing a lot of work, as we move along the list and we're getting down into the smaller outages that affect smaller groups of people, very important still, those become more involved. Oftentimes, our crews have to go into alleyways and backyards, and it gets a little bit more complicated and takes more time, and restoration takes more time. We are incredibly grateful again for the additional tree trimming crews that have come to our aid. That has helping expedite some of that work, but certainly the work, the last restorations, the last outages will be undoubtedly more complicated, and that is one of the reasons why we are not letting go. We still have to, as I reported earlier, over 900 people on the ground, and my expectation, my direction is we will keep all of these crews on until the very end, because we will need every single one of them. As much as they're available, we will keep them on.
Okay. Now back to KMTV.
A little bit related to crew safety. I know you mentioned, pulling people out if there's going to be a lot of wind and falling limbs tonight. Are you aware of, or are you making any preparations for if there's like lightning in the air tonight, just with storms coming by? How is that going to be affecting your work to get the power back on and keep crews safe at the same time?
Okay,
Yes.
the question is, with regards to tonight's weather, should there be lightning, other issues, how does that affect our work and crew safety?
Yes, we have protocols. Lightning is not uncommon in our area. So just like with wind speeds, we have lightning, we have rain, and so our teams have protocols. We are actively communicating, so this is important. Our out of town crews, we do an extra effort to communicate because depending on which utility they're coming, which region they're coming, they may not be familiar with how we react to our weather. So that those are briefings that we have every morning and that we keep them informed. We have for every mutual aid crew we have out there, we have someone with them at all times, someone from the area, either an OPPD employee, sometimes retirees. We've recruited them to come and help them not only navigate the area and understand our system, but also with these type of safety measures. Since you mentioned safety, let me take the opportunity to remind our public. We've asked a few times now, if you see an OPPD crew out in your area, please know that they're working, and we know you want to talk to them, and we understand that. We've asked, please don't interfere on their work. I've read a few comments of some customer owners who are not pleased when they see an OPPD employee in their truck parked outside on the street. Let me tell you that many things could happen, but two things are probably the most common. That employee is probably waiting for the remaining crew to arrive before they start work, or in many cases, that employee probably has been working 10 hours straight and they need a break. They're human beings and they need a break. And they can't go home, they can't leave their truck and go home and take a break. So sometimes you will see them in their truck taking a break, a necessary break that keeps them sharp, that keeps them healthy. And so I want to ask you to have that in mind when you see our employees or our mutual aid crews resting. It's not by choice, not because they don't want to work. In fact, we have the opposite problem. We oftentimes have to slow them down because we want them to be safe. We don't want fatigue to get the best out of them or get complacent and really and have a safety incident.
An additional question from the Omaha World Herald.
What are the shifts your crews are working, and have they all been working since Saturday?
The question is, what shifts have our crews been working, and have they all been working since Saturday?
They have all been working since Saturday. They work different shifts. For a storm like these, we have 24-hour coverage. However, the majority of the coverage happens during the daylight, and part of it is safety. as they're coming into neighborhoods, daylight allows them to really see and assess the situation, and with trees down and cable down, it's a lot easier and safer. That doesn't mean that we don't have people working overnight. We have crews working overnight, not as many as we have working during the daylight. Again, for safety reasons, that's how we have staged them.
Were they like 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts? What kind of?
Question is, what kind of shifts? How long?
Steve, do you have that?
It's usually between 10 and 12 hours. So to echo what Javier said, Steve Fanslow, OPPD, it's usually between 10 and 12-hour shifts, and those crews are working 24/7. So we have crews that are working 24/7. So those are some of the shifts that they work.
I have one clarifying comment. I just got a text. You had asked, one of the reporters asked how many outages since yesterday, and they reported approximately 719 that came in just from yesterday. So as we get people on, there's outages that happen as well. So, and be sure if your power goes out again for any reason, you need to report it on oppd.com. Thank you.
Do you have any trouble with your own getting your own equipment? I mean, apparently across the street, they had power and then the transformer blew and they don't have power. Do you have plenty of transformers, or are you also running into the problems that the private electricians are running into in terms of finding supplies?
The question is, with regards to equipment and supplies, how are we sitting? Are we running into some of the issues that some private electricians are?
We have good supplies. We have been preparing for this, and we have not only our own supplies, but we have relationships with suppliers that allow us to flex our inventory. So far, we haven't. We have started running low on certain parts and pieces, and we are proactively looking for suppliers, and we've been able to get those supplies back up. But as of right now, I am not aware of a single part that we may be in desperate need of. That we're very fortunate in that way.
Yeah, one last question from me. Are we still looking like going into the weekend then for the final outages? Is that kind of the target still?
Okay, the question is, are we still looking at going into the weekend for our final restorations?
Yes.
To that chart. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep,
Sorry, finish, great.
small fraction.
And once again, I've repeated this before, but it's the outages that can be reasonably restored. Again, homes that sustain severe damage, those might take a little longer.
More questions? KMTV.
Yeah, I actually have this question from one of our followers on Twitter. Is asking, when you say that there are less than 10,000 affected customers, how does that terminology work? Is it someone that holds the bill in their title? Is it households? Because there could be potentially kids in there and a lot more people than just 10,000.
Their question comes from Twitter, and it's, how do we define a customer? Is it a household? Is it the person who pays the bill? Javier?
Great question. The way we have been communicating and the numbers that you see up there, a customer owner for these purposes is a connection. It's an account. There might be 5 people in that home, so it's not the people that are affected, and I'm very, very aware there's a lot more people affected than just 10,000. But it's an important measure for us because we go in and we fix a connection. We restore power to a home or a business or an apartment building. That's how we're measuring that. And we have information about how many people we think live in the home. If it's a residential home, if it's a multifamily, if it's a business, and we take that into account to figure out, okay, how many people are affected. That's one of, actually, the first thing that we did when we started prioritizing was, let's look at hospitals, for example, and infrastructure that affects a lot of people. But for purposes of reporting here, we're talking about a meter.
More questions from the audience? Oh, one more question from KMTV.
I know you guys exceeded your goal last night. What made the difference? Was it just luck? Was it just weather cooperating? What made the difference that we are exceeding our goal today?
The question is, with exceeding that goal that we had set for last night restoration, kind of what made that difference?
Well, part of it, so if you remember, and I will be very clear, we did not meet our goal 2 days ago, right? We had some calibration to make as we realized, and we were able to set eyes on the work. Last night, one of the things that happened, weather cooperated really well. We didn't have any storms. We had more crews added throughout the day, and that helped expedite some of that work. So that helped us exceed the goal. As I said today, I am confident in saying that we should be able to meet the goal of 7,000. If, depending on the storms that may or may not come later on this afternoon, we may be able to get more work done, or it may slow us down if it turns out to be a bigger storm. But it's really, the majority of it is we are now able to see and assess and access the locations that need work. And it gives us a better idea of the pace of work. How many jobs a crew is able to complete in a day, and how much each outage or each repair will take each crew.
More questions? Go ahead.
I do this every day. I know UNO and a couple of the hotels are helping host these out-of-town crews. How does that help you as OPPD to just kind of take that weight off your shoulder to know that these people that are coming out and helping this community are going to be taken care of?
The question from KMTV is, knowing that UNO and a number of hotels are helping us house some of these out-of-town mutual aid crews, how does that take the burden off of us and kind of make us feel better that our crews are being taken care of?
It helps tremendously. So from a logistics perspective, an operations perspective, this has been a major effort at OPPD. I mentioned the hundreds of people that are working behind the scenes on supply chain and logistics. That is exactly the type of work that happens. As we have crews coming in, I've been talking about numbers, and while the number of people out may not change, the people themselves are changing. Right, and you need laundry, you need food, you need beverages, you need hotel rooms, and all the things that need to be taken care of by the OPPD team. When the storm first hit, it was from Friday night into Saturday morning. It was a busy weekend. We had big sporting events happening in the city. Hotels were a little full. And so we were able to secure rooms from hotels, but at some point we were able to call our partners. UNO has been a fantastic partner. They had dorms available, and they made them available for us. We are paying, of course, for the all the consumables, but that has helped us significantly in moving crews. One other advantage of the UNO help is that they have big parking spots, big parking lots, where we've been able to get all the trucks and line and stage every morning, something that a hotel doesn't necessarily have. So we've relied on both hotels and organizations like UNO to help us take good care of the mutual aid crews that are coming in, just like those mutual aid, just like those utilities have taken care of our crews when we've sent them to Florida and to Texas and other places when they've needed our help.
Any further questions from present members of the media? Okay, we really want to thank you all for coming out, those of you that came in person and those of you that are watching online. And we want to remind you, you can find more information, current information on outages, numbers, safety tips at stormandoutage.com. You can also find a list of frequently asked questions at oppd.com. And again, a reminder to make sure that you report any remaining outages at 1-800-554-OPPD or online at oppd.com so that we're aware. Thank you.